I have attended Grace Hopper celebration as a student and landed a job. Here's the interesting part. Even though I got interviews through the database and the career fair, the job that I ended up with came through a networking event. Hey everyone, my name is Kajal and today I'm talking about how to network. I have heard the recent Grace Hopper celebration news that they have currently cancelled the career fair and they're thinking about rescheduling it in the future. They are going ahead with the conference and the networking events. So I'm hoping this video can help you on how to network. I'll also talk about some do's and don'ts and how to do all of this in a virtual setting. I have included all the timings here and in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's first quickly talk about what's happening. The one-on-one interaction you get with a recruiter at a career fair is not happening. They are continuing with the other aspects of the conference, such as sessions, open source day, and networking events. Now, sessions include talks, workshops, and panel discussions. Earlier, it was limited to certain number of people and you had to pre-register. Now, everyone can attend all of them and you don't need to pre-register. They are going to continue with the networking events as well. So the question comes, how do you make an impression at a networking event? And how do you make the most out of it? And that is what we are talking about today. You still need an elevator pitch. With most sessions or roundtable events, you still get an opportunity to introduce yourself. You might not get the 3 to 4 minutes you get with a one-on-one interaction. You will still get time to introduce yourself. So the change you need to make is shorten your elevator pitch to 30 to 45 seconds. You're still answering the same questions. Who are you? What makes you interesting? And what is your ask? Here's an example. Hey everyone, my name is Kajal and I'm a master's student in robotics. I recently worked with a differential drive robot where the goal was to find the way out of a maze, and I did this by implementing A-star algorithm. I'm looking for full-time positions in path planning and navigation starting May 2021. You can even make it something fun. Hey everyone, my name is Kajal and I built a drone that crashed into my neighbor's window. As you can tell, I'm a master's student and I'm looking for full-time positions starting May 2021. As for the drone, I'm building a new one that can actually survive a crash. Here's my next tip. Ask interesting questions. Use these networking sessions as an opportunity to get to know more about the company and the team that you're applying for. A good idea is to research things beforehand so you can come up with interesting and genuine questions that will help you stand out. Here are some examples. What are the biggest challenges facing your company right now? I noticed that your company uses LiDAR. How do you deal with all the sensor noise? What is your opinion on time-of-flight cameras? Have an interesting project to talk about. Be it group discussions or one-on-one sessions, you will be asked to talk about your experiences or projects. Don't just list everything you've done. Have 1 or 2 interesting experiences or projects to talk about. Here are some things to keep in mind when you talk about your projects. What was the goal? What did you do? What were the results? And when I say results, talk about impact and numbers. And lastly, what sort of skills or techniques did you use to achieve those results? So for example, you might be talking about a differential drive robot where you try to get out of a maze. So next, talk that you used A-star algorithm. Then talk about why did you use this particular algorithm versus breadth first search or depth first search. Further, turn it into a conversation. Ask their opinion on what they think about certain aspects of your project. Next, let's talk about some do's and don'ts of networking. Number 1, don't bullshit. I've seen few students do this where they'll mention keywords in their conversation to impress the other person, but they might not know what those keywords mean. If you're mentioning something, expect the other person will ask questions about that. And then if you don't know and then you start to bullshit, you end up making a bad impression. It's much better to say that I have heard about this, but I don't know anything beyond that. Moreover, talk about things you know. So when they ask you questions, you can actually make an impression. Number 2, don't overpower the conversation. Be it one-on-one or a group setting, there are multiple participants. Don't be the only one who is talking and not allow other people to contribute. You will end up making a bad impression as the person who's only interested in talking about himself or herself and not interested in having a conversation. Networking is about having conversation. So please allow other people to talk as well. Now, if you're on the receiving end and someone is not letting you talk, here are some things you can say to interrupt the other person and get an opportunity to talk. Hey Kajal, before you move on, I'd like to add something to your point. In the interest of time, let's take this topic offline and talk about XYZ. Hey Kajal, let me know when you're done and I would like to go after you. Let's talk about some do's and don'ts for a virtual setting. Do turn on your camera. It's much easier to talk to a person whom you can see. Do dress the part. It helps make an impression. Do set up your environment so you can take a virtual call. Remove anything distracting. Make sure the light is facing you so that your face brights up, and use a good set of headset so that your voice is clear and you can clearly hear the other person. And lastly, do learn the shortcuts to easily mute and unmute yourself. If you're not talking, mute yourself. This makes the conversation less distracting. Find a way to connect. As you approach end of the session, make sure you find a way to connect with them after the event. Either ask for their email ID or their profile name. Make sure to note it down so that you don't have any typos and don't miss out on connecting with them. One other thing, I've seen a lot of people just drop their LinkedIn profile name and hope the other person connects with you. Be proactive. Note down everyone's name. You can see most people's name in the participants section so that you can reach out to them. Pro tip, follow up. After the session ends, within the next 24 to 48 hours, make sure to send a thank you note and a follow up from something about your conversation. This makes it easier for the other person to recall who you are. You can also use this space to include some resources about something from your conversation. Now, this brings us to networking on LinkedIn. Now, I know some of you only purchase the career fair ticket and you may or may not be able to attend the networking events. So, here's my suggestion, use LinkedIn. I do have a dedicated video on how to network on LinkedIn. I'll put it somewhere here and add it in the description below. I go over how to find people to connect with, how to connect with them, and then how to have one-on-one conversations with them. I hope both of this video will give you the information you need to network and land a job. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. I wish you all the very best for your Grace Hopper and job search process. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.